Okay, get ready, because we're going deep into UFO territory today.
UFOs, oh yeah.
We're exploring Keith Basterfield's book, UFOs, a report on Australian encounters.
Fascinating stuff.
It's jam-packed with first-hand accounts.
You know, what really struck me about Basterfield's work
Yeah?
is his approach. He doesn't just collect stories, he analyzes them.
Right, like a true investigator.
Exactly, with a background in astronomy, meteorology, and even computers.
Wow, so he's coming at this from multiple angles.
He really is, and he's not afraid to call out the flaws in early UFO research.
Yeah, he even mentions his early days as a field investigator.
Jumping in with both boots on, as he puts it.
Enthusiastic, to say the least.
But he got frustrated with the sensationalism.
All that hype overshadowing real attempts to understand what's going on.
He wanted evidence, not just speculation.
Which makes sense, especially with his scientific background.
He was actually a coordinator for the Australian Centre for UFO Studies.
So he's been deeply involved in the field.
Oh, absolutely. And his book is a testament to his commitment to bringing a more rigorous approach to UFO research.
So where do we even begin with such a vast topic?
Well, why don't we start with one of Basterfield's early investigations?
Sounds good to me.
The case of Mervyn Boyce in October 1971.
What happened there?
Boyce reported seeing a fast-moving light in the sky.
Okay, a classic UFO sighting.
You'd think so, right? Even Basterfield initially thought it might be a satellite.
I can see how that would be confusing.
Especially at night, things can play tricks on your eyes.
So what was it then? Not aliens, I hope.
Nope, not this time.
What a letdown.
It turned out to be a weather balloon.
A weather balloon. Seriously.
Yep. It just goes to show you how easily our perceptions can fool us.
That's a good reminder.
And Basterfield makes this point throughout the book.
So it's not always little green men.
Not always. He
No.
spends a lot of time debunking common misinterpretations.
Like what?
Stars, planets, even satellites. People often mistake them for UFOs.
I guess that makes sense. Most people don't spend their evenings studying the night sky.
And even if you know your constellations,
Yeah.
atmospheric conditions can make things really tricky.
Oh, right, like clouds and fog.
Exactly. And things like the twinkling of stars,
Ah, I see.
or how brightly Venus can shine.
That could definitely throw someone off.
Even satellites can appear strange,
Really?
especially near the horizon.
Oh, so.
They can appear erratic, and their reflective surfaces can cause them to flash or change brightness.
Oh, I never thought of that.
It's all about perspective and how our brains interpret what we see.
So we have to be careful about what we label a UFO.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is key.
But what about those cases that can't be explained away so easily?
The ones that leave you scratching your head.
Yeah, what does Basterfield say about those truly unexplained encounters?
That's where his image theory comes in.
Image theory. Sounds intriguing.
It is. He proposes that many UFO sightings aren't physical objects at all.
Oh, and you're saying they're not real?
Not in the traditional sense. He believes they're mental projections or imagery.
Wait, is he saying people are hallucinating UFOs?
It's not quite as simple as that.
Okay, because that sounds a bit far-fetched.
He dives into the complexities of human perception,
So our minds can play tricks on us.
especially under certain conditions.
Like what?
Stress, sleep deprivation, even certain psychological states.
I see. So our brains can create these vivid, seemingly real experiences.
Exactly, and that's what he thinks might be happening in many UFO sightings.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. If it's not a physical object, how do we explain the close encounters?
The physical traces, the impact on the witnesses.
It's a lot to consider.
It is. And Basterfield acknowledges that some cases defy easy explanation.
Like which ones?
Well, take the case of Ron, for example.
Who's Ron?
He was a mechanic who had a rather unsettling encounter in November 1972. He claimed a UFO landed near his car,
A UFO landing.
and afterward his truck battery was completely drained.
That's strange. A drained battery? That's a tangible effect.
Right, it's not just a visual sighting.
So there's something physical happening there.
Another UFO investigator, Alan Sear, looked into it.
Yeah.
He couldn't find any reason for the battery issue.
So we have a visual sighting and a possible physical effect.
It definitely makes you think twice about this image idea.
It does.
Ah.
What other close encounters stood out in the book?
There's a Kimba case from February 1973.
Tell me about it.
A man named Brian was driving at night
Okay.
when he saw an object hovering near his vehicle.
Another classic UFO sighting.
But what's interesting is the level of detail in his description.
He saw more than just a light in the sky.
Oh, yeah. He described the shape, the colors, even the lack of any visible propulsion system.
Wow. That's pretty specific.
He and his wife watched it for a while.
Multiple witnesses.
And the police even investigated.
Right.
They couldn't find an explanation either.
So we have detailed descriptions and multiple witnesses.
It's getting harder to dismiss as just imagination.
It is. What about Rosemary's encounter in September 1973?
That one's a bit different.
How so?
Rosemary was a passenger in a truck when she saw this egg-shaped object emitting a white glow.
An egg-shaped UFO? That's a new one.
But here's the kicker.
I'm listening.
She described seeing a figure walking towards the object,
Like a person.
entering through a door.
A door on a UFO.
And she even saw a second figure looking out from a window.
Wow. That's creepy. Like something out of a movie.
It definitely adds a whole other layer of weirdness.
It does. So we have everything from misidentified objects to these bizarre encounters.
It seems like Basterfield is walking a fine line between skepticism and open-mindedness.
He's trying to make sense of it all.
And that's what I appreciate about his approach.
It's a balanced perspective.
He doesn't shy away from the challenging aspects of UFO research.
But he tries to apply a reasoned and evidence-based approach.
Exactly. He knows that anecdotal evidence alone isn't enough.
Which is why he's so interested in finding physical proof.
Hard evidence to back up these claims.
Makes sense. What kind of physical evidence was he looking for?
Well, he explored several methods.
Like what?
One was the signature test using magnetic fields.
Magnetic fields. How does that work?
The idea came from the 1968 Condon Report.
What's that?
It was a scientific study of UFOs.
Okay.
The idea is that every car has a unique magnetic pattern,
Based on?
the Earth's magnetic field at the time of its manufacture.
Like a magnetic fingerprint for each car.
Precisely. So, if a UFO landed near a car
Yeah.
and its engine generated a strong magnetic field,
Right.
it might alter the car's magnetic signature.
So you'd be looking for the magnetic footprint of a UFO.
You got it. It's a clever idea.
It is. But did it work?
Unfortunately, no conclusive results have been obtained.
Oh, too bad.
But it shows how serious Basterfield was about finding hard evidence.
Even if the technology wasn't quite there yet.
He was ahead of his time in some ways.
It's interesting how investigators were already trying to apply scientific methods to this phenomenon.
It speaks to the human desire to understand the unknown.
We want answers, even for things that seem inexplicable.
Speaking of inexplicable,
Yeah.
there's that strange substance called angel hair,
Angel hair.
sometimes found after UFO sightings.
I've never heard of that. What is it?
It's usually described as white, wispy, and web-like.
Sounds ethereal.
It's baffled researchers for decades.
So what is it?
Basterfield thinks it's probably spider webs in most cases.
Spider webs. Really?
But even he admits the mystery hasn't been fully solved.
So there's still a chance it could be something else.
There's always a chance.
So angel hair, magnetic fields. What else did Basterfield investigate?
Well, how about those mysterious ground markings?
You mean the patterns found in fields after alleged UFO landings?
The very same.
Those always spark the imagination.
And Australia has had its fair share of them.
What kind of patterns are we talking about?
Basterfield describes them in detail. Circles, rings, swirled patches, you name it.
Sounds like quite the variety.
It is. But are they evidence of alien spacecraft?
That's the million-dollar question.
This is where Basterfield's scientific background really shines.
How so?
He proposes a natural explanation for many of these markings.
A natural explanation.
A type of fungus called fairy rings.
Fairy rings. That sounds magical.
It does, doesn't it?
So no little fairies dancing in the moonlight.
Afraid not. These fairy rings are actually quite common.
Really?
They're caused by a type of fungus that grows outward in a circular pattern.
Interesting. So how do they create those patterns?
As the fungus spreads beneath the ground,
Yeah.
it can affect the grass above it,
Causing it too.
die back in a ring shape, or even grow more lushly in a ring.
Ah, I see. So something seemingly mysterious can have a simple, natural explanation.
Often, the simplest explanation is the most likely one.
But does that mean all ground markings are just fairy rings?
Not necessarily.
Why?
While fairy rings can account for a lot of cases,
Yeah.
Basterfield acknowledges that some remain unexplained.
Oh, like what?
He points to examples where there's no obvious connection to fungal growth.
So there's still a mystery there.
And even cases where the soil composition within the markings is different
Different how?
from the surrounding area.
That's intriguing.
It seems like Basterfield, despite his scientific approach, is willing to keep an open mind.
He's not ruling anything out completely.
That's what makes his work so compelling.
He's a scientist, but also a bit of a detective.
Trying to piece together the puzzle of UFOs.
And he encourages us to do the same.
To think critically and consider all possibilities.
That's a valuable lesson, no matter what you're investigating.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of investigations, there's a case from 1980 that really solidified Basterfield's image theory.
Oh, which one is that?
The Rosedale case.
What happened there?
A man named Paul witnessed a UFO landing in a paddock.
A UFO landing.
And after it left, he found a circular marking in the grass.
A physical trace.
Flattened anti-clockwise, black in color, with a ring of unaffected grass inside.
Wow, that's pretty convincing evidence.
It attracted a lot of media attention.
I bet.
And even Basterfield initially thought it supported a physical landing.
So what changed his mind?
Well, after the event, Paul started experiencing some strange symptoms.
Like what?
Headaches, difficulty sleeping, even vomiting.
Whoa, those are some serious side effects.
And those symptoms, along with other details, led Basterfield to connect the case to his image theory.
So he's saying Paul imagined the whole thing.
It's more nuanced than that. He suggests that under certain circumstances, mental imagery can manifest in physical ways.
Wait, you're saying our minds can create physical changes?
It's a mind-bending concept, I know.
It is. So how does he explain the physical trace in the Rosedale case?
He believes Paul might have been in an altered state of consciousness during the encounter.
Altered state of consciousness.
Think of it as a state where the boundaries between your inner world and the external world become blurred.
Okay, I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
It's a state where the impossible might seem possible.
And he thinks this altered state somehow caused the physical trace.
It's a theory, but a compelling one.
It is. So at this point, Basterfield is feeling pretty good about his image theory.
It seems to explain a lot of the cases he's encountered.
But then he comes across a case that shakes his convictions.
A case that challenges everything he thought he knew.
The Mundane encounter.
You got it. One of the most well-documented Australian UFO cases.
And one that Basterfield himself found deeply perplexing.
It really put his image theory to the test.
So what happened in Mundane? What was so different about this case?
Well, in January 1988, the Knowles family, they had a terrifying encounter with a bright light while driving.
Another light in the sky.
This one was a bit more than that. They reported the object actually bumped their car from above.
It hit their car,
causing dents in the roof.
So this wasn't just a visual sighting. There was physical damage.
Exactly. But here's the most baffling part.
I'm all ears.
They found a fine black dust on the car afterward.
Black dust. That's specific.
Very specific. The police investigated, of course. They analyzed the dust, trying to determine its origin.
What did they find?
No conclusive answers, unfortunately. But there is more.
What else happened?
They also found a blown-out tire.
A blown-out tire? How did that happen?
The family believed it happened when they were trying to escape the object.
Wow, this is starting to sound like a scene from a movie.
It does, doesn't it?
And were there multiple witnesses in this case, too?
Yes. Not just the Knowles family.
But
a truck driver following behind them also saw the events.
So multiple witnesses, a damaged car, and that mysterious black dust.
It's a tough one to explain away.
What did Basterfield make of all this?
He was stumped. The Mundane case really challenged his image theory.
I can see why the physical evidence is hard to ignore.
Especially the damage to the car and the black dust.
That's not something you can easily explain as a psychological phenomenon.
It's not. This case really forced Basterfield to reconsider his position.
So, did he abandon his image theory altogether?
Not entirely. While the Mundane case definitely shook his confidence, he still maintained that psychological factors played a role in many encounters.
He wasn't willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
It shows he was willing to adapt his views based on new evidence.
Which is the hallmark of a true scientist.
He wasn't afraid to be challenged, to admit when he might be wrong.
That's an important quality in any field, really.
Especially when dealing with the unknown.
It's a good reminder for all of us to approach these topics with humility.
And a willingness to question what we think we know.
But before we get too philosophical,
Yeah.
let's talk about another major development in UFO research.
Dishes.
The emergence of abduction reports in the 1980s.
Ah, yes. That's when things took a whole new turn.
It shifted the focus from sightings of objects in the sky
To something much more personal and often much more frightening.
the abduction phenomena,
It brought with it a whole new set of questions and challenges.
and a whole new set of psychological complexities.
Exactly. And it's a topic that Basterfield approaches with caution and nuance.
I'm sure he does. After all, he's the scientist, the skeptic.
But he's also a researcher who's willing to consider all possibilities.
He doesn't shy away from the difficult questions.
Not at all. In fact, he co-authored a study on this very topic.
Oh, what study is that?
It's called an Australian Catalogue of Close Encounter Type 3 Reports.
Close Encounter Type 3? That sounds ominous.
It is. These are the cases where people report interactions with entities.
Entities, you mean aliens.
He doesn't necessarily label them as such, but it's implied.
So he's acknowledging that something strange might be happening.
He doesn't rule it out. He recognizes that there are cases that defy easy explanation.
Even with his emphasis on psychological factors.
Even then, he discusses concepts like hypnagogic and hypnopompic imagery.
Those are.
Vivid hallucinations that can occur during the transition between wakefulness and sleep.
So he's suggesting some of these abduction experiences might be hallucinations.
It's one possible explanation, but it doesn't account for all the cases.
There are cases that go beyond simple hallucinations.
Cases with physical evidence, multiple witnesses, even lasting psychological effects.
It sounds like this abduction phenomenon is a whole other rabbit hole to explore.
It is, and it's a rabbit hole that Basterfield doesn't shy away from.
He dives right in, armed with his scientific approach and his open mind.
He's not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom or even his own beliefs.
He's a true seeker of truth, no matter where it leads him.
And that's what makes his work so valuable. He invites us to join him on this journey of discovery.
To explore the mysteries of the universe and the complexities of human perception.
To question everything and to remain open to the possibility that there's more to reality than we currently understand.
It's a journey worth taking, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And Basterfield is an excellent guide.
It's a lot to unpack, these abduction accounts. They really push the boundaries of what we think we know.
They do. And what's fascinating is how Basterfield approaches this whole phenomenon.
Yeah, he seems to strike a balance.
He really does. A balance between skepticism and open-mindedness.
He doesn't ask us to just blindly believe, right?
No, not at all. But he also doesn't dismiss the entire phenomenon as nonsense.
It's like he's saying, hey, there's something here worth investigating.
Exactly. There's clearly something going on, even if we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet.
It's a mystery.
It really is. And I think that's what makes the UFO phenomenon so captivating.
The mystery.
It challenges our understanding of the universe.
Makes you feel small, in a way.
In a way, yes. And Basterfield's focus on Australian cases adds another layer to it all.
It's not just happening in America, right?
Right. It's a global phenomenon. And each region, like Australia, brings its own unique perspective.
So with all this in mind, where does Basterfield ultimately land on the question of UFOs and alien abduction?
Well, he doesn't claim to have all the answers.
Which is refreshing, honestly.
It is. He's honest about the limitations of our current knowledge.
But he doesn't leave us hanging, right?
No, instead, he emphasizes the need for more research.
A call to action, in a way.
Exactly. More scientific research, more investigation.
Because there's still so much we don't know.
There is, and I'm sure that resonates with you as a learner.
The thirst for knowledge.
Precisely. And Basterfield embodies that. He sees the value in carefully examining the evidence.
Not jumping to conclusions.
Right. Considering multiple perspectives.
And being open to the possibility of the unknown.
That's a key takeaway from his work.
The refreshing perspective, especially in a field that can be prone to sensationalism.
You know, it's interesting. Even with the abduction phenomenon.
Which can be pretty frightening, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. But Basterfield tackles it head on.
He doesn't shy away from the tough stuff.
While acknowledging the psychological complexities.
The human mind is a strange thing.
It is. But he doesn't rule out the possibility that something truly extraordinary is occurring.
So he's leaving the door open.
He's saying we need to investigate this further.
It's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about the universe.
And about the potential for other forms of life out there.
It's mind-blowing to think about.
It really is. And what I appreciate about Basterfield's book is how he weaves together personal anecdotes, scientific analysis, and all these diverse case studies.
It's a good mix.
It is. It's engaging, informative.
And he doesn't dumb it down.
Not at all. He presents these complex ideas in an accessible way.
while still encouraging critical thinking.
He's not trying to convert you to a particular belief system.
He's more like a guide.
Exactly. He's inviting you to join him on this journey of exploration and discovery.
To figure things out for yourself.
Precisely. And that's what makes his approach so valuable.
He's not an authority figure dictating the truth.
He's a fellow traveler, sharing his insights and encouraging you to form your own opinions.
It's a reminder that we should approach the unknown with both curiosity and skepticism.
A healthy balance of the two.
And with a sense of wonder, too.
You know, there's something magical about acknowledging the vastness of the universe and the mysteries it holds.
It can be humbling.
It is. And speaking of mysteries, let's circle back to Basterfield's image theory for a moment.
Okay. The theory that UFO sightings are mental projections.
Yes. Remember how the Mundribilla case challenged his thinking on that?
With the physical evidence and all that.
Exactly. Well, despite that setback, Basterfield doesn't completely abandon the idea that our minds play a role in shaping these experiences.
So he still believes in the power of the mind.
In a way, yes. He still believes that psychological factors can contribute to or even create some of the phenomena reported in UFO sightings.
It's like he's saying that what we see and experience isn't always an accurate reflection of reality.
That's a good way to put it. He's suggesting that the relationship between our minds and the world around us is more complex than we typically assume.
It's a mind-bending concept.
It really is.
Yeah.
He doesn't provide definitive answers, but he offers a framework for understanding the UFO phenomenon.
A framework that takes into account both the objective and subjective aspects of these experiences.
Exactly. He's not saying that all UFO sightings are just hallucinations.
But he's saying that we need to consider the role of our own minds.
He's encouraging us to explore the interplay between perception, consciousness, and external reality.
It's a fascinating concept.
It really is. And it makes you wonder how much of what we perceive as reality is actually a product of our own minds.
It's a question philosophers have pondered for ages.
And it's a question that the UFO phenomenon brings to the forefront.
It makes you think about those cases where people report missing time.
Or feeling like they've been somehow altered by the experience.
Like something has fundamentally changed within them.
Those are the kinds of accounts that really push the boundaries of our understanding.
And make us question the very nature of reality itself.
Exactly. So while Basterfield acknowledges the limitations of his image theory,
Especially in light of cases like Mundribilla.
he also highlights its potential to explain a significant portion of the UFO phenomenon.
It's like he's saying, don't dismiss the power of the mind.
He's encouraging us to consider all possibilities.
Both the external and the internal factors at play.
It's a balanced perspective.
And it reflects his commitment to approaching this topic with both intellectual rigor and an open mind. He's not afraid to challenge the status quo, and he invites us to do the same.
He's a true pioneer in the field of UFO research.
And his work is a testament to the enduring power of curiosity and the importance of critical thinking.
He encourages us to engage in a process of critical inquiry, to weigh the evidence, and to draw our own conclusions.
Which is ultimately what makes this topic so fascinating.
It's not about finding definitive answers or proving or disproving the existence of aliens.
It's about something bigger than that.
It's about exploring the unknown, questioning our assumptions, and expanding our understanding of the universe and ourselves.
And that's a journey worth taking, no matter where it leads us.
Absolutely.
You know what's really striking about Basterfield's work? He manages to bring together science, psychology, those personal experiences.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He creates such a compelling exploration of UFOs.
It's not just a dry academic analysis.
Yeah, not at all. And I think that's partly due to his focus on Australian cases.
It adds that unique, almost down-to-earth feel to it.
Down-to-earth UFOs. Who would have thought?
It's funny, though, when you think about UFO hotspots,
Right.
Australia doesn't immediately come to mind.
Not the first place you'd think of.
But Basterfield's book shows us there's a rich history of sightings and encounters right here.
You're absolutely right. It's not just an American thing, you know?
Incredible.
Global. And each region brings its own flavor to the mix.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from Basterfield's work?
That's a good question. I think it's that sense of open-minded curiosity that he embodies.
He's not trying to convince us of anything, is he?
No, not at all. He doesn't want you to blindly believe in UFOs.
But he also doesn't want us to just dismiss them outright.
Exactly. He wants us to question, to investigate.
To be open to the possibility that we don't have all the answers yet.
Which is so important, especially today.
With all the noise and the polarization.
It's easy to get caught up in black and white thinking.
And to forget that there are shades of gray.
There are, and Basterfield reminds us of that.
It's refreshing.
It is. And it's funny.
What is?
We often think of science and the unknown as being at odds with each other.
Like they can't coexist.
But Basterfield shows us how they can actually complement each other.
How a scientific mindset can make us even more receptive to the mysteries of the universe.
It's not about shutting down curiosity.
It's about channeling it.
Using the tools of science to explore the unknown.
That's a powerful message.
It is, and I think it applies to any topic, really.
Not just UFOs.
Exactly. It's about embracing that sense of wonder, that awe that comes with realizing how much there is still left to discover.
And there's a lot out there, that's for sure.
There is. And this deep dive with all the incredible cases from Basterfield's book.
Right. The misidentified planets, the mysterious black dust.
The psychological theories, the genuinely unexplained encounters.
It's just a glimpse into the vastness of this phenomena.
We've only scratched the surface, really.
We have. In Basterfield's book, it's just the beginning.
There's a whole world of UFO research out there waiting to be explored.
Books, documentaries, podcasts, research groups.
Who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will have their own UFO encounter someday.
And if that happens, remember Basterfield's advice.
What's that?
Approach it with an open mind, a critical eye, and a healthy dose of skepticism.
And don't forget to take notes.
Detailed notes. Because you never know, your experience could be the one that finally cracks this whole thing wide open.
It could be the key to understanding the UFO mystery.
So to our listeners, we say keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never lose that sense of wonder.
The universe is full of surprises.
And who knows what we might find just around the corner.